You're listening to Never Heard of It, a Night Shift Radio production. So, between my move to this new house and getting everything all set up, getting the furniture in my living room, and I don't know if I've shown you the photos yet, but like it's coming together really well.
Yeah.
So I have my new TV out there, and between that and feeling inspired by our newest regular podcast that just launched,
Just
Shift
launched.
HQ, our queer and POC centered gaming podcast. I set up my Switch and plugged it into the TV for only the second time ever. Like Ellen and I played Mario, like a couple of years ago, like after we first moved back here, and like I plugged in one night. But otherwise, I've always ever just played handheld.
Yeah.
I set it up and I've been playing on my big new TV. It's so much fun.
Breath of the Wild on a huge, gorgeous TV it's an experience. Let me tell you.
I've dabbled back in Diablo 3, which I very much enjoy. I have played a fair bit of the Crown Tundra expansion of Pokemon Sword and Shield, and most importantly, Mario Kart.
Yeah. Oh, Mario Kart, especially when you're playing with multiple people, it's great on a huge screen.
Now, I explained this to Ellen earlier that Mario Kart is easily probably my favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
And people always ask, well, which version? Because everyone has. And it's kind of like Doctor Who. Everyone has their Mario Kart that is like their definitive version. For me, the DS version was like the definitive. Like this is the best in the franchise, and I'll hear no arguments. But that said, everything from Double Dash on has been just absolutely solid.
Yeah. I mean, I think the last like 3 Mario Karts have been really, really good. I mean, they have, none of them have been bad per se. I can't think of one. The mobile version is not great.
I would say I've said everything since Double Dash, but I haven't played that was like World Tournament or whatever it is on mobile because it kind of looked dumb. And then I have also not played the like home circuit because I'm sorry, I feel like the boat has sailed on anything VR related. Like it felt like it was going to be the new like awesome thing in the 80s, and now it just after a couple, at this point, like almost 3 decades of companies failing to really deliver on it, I just don't care anymore.
I will say, so VR and 3D. So one, when everybody started launching 3D TVs, and a whole lot of people jumped on that, and I was like, don't fucking do it. Like you were going to instantly regret it. And they're like, no, it's really fucking cool. And I'm like, no, there's a couple of reasons why. One, the 3D still isn't great. It dilutes the picture isn't great. It's not a good quality. If I pay $2,000 for a 4K or 8K TV, I don't want to ruin it by putting on shitty glasses and making it all weird and fuzzy if I turn my head slightly. Like that's not the type of experience I want, and the 3D isn't there enough. Also, VR, I get that there's some cool games on VR, but PlayStation gave up on VR just recently. Xbox pretty much gave up on it. You have Oculus, which is like the only front runner to it. And I had an Oculus for a while. I actually won one in a contest.
Look at you.
Yeah, and it was cool, but like it's not there, man. Like it's not ready yet. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Now I know that there are the diehard old school fans who will claim that either the original SNES or N64 installments are the best. But you know what? I'm going to come right out and say it. They're not. They're fucking hard, and they look like garbage because that was the technology at the time.
The Wii one was great.
I remember going into it was like a GameStop or something like that, whatever, like one of the early precursors to that was, maybe it was like an
EB Games.
Yeah, wandering into one of those in the mall, and they had a little kiosk set up with, at this point, it probably would have been an N64.
Yeah.
I think it would have been past the time when that would have been out for SNES. And playing it then and thinking like, oh, this is awesome. I love Mario, and like, this is cool. But yeah, it's not. So anyway, yeah, the whole point of the story is I love Mario Kart. It's hands down one of my favorite games of all time. I don't like racing games.
Yeah,
like at all. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, F-Zero is also dope. Also really hard if
Yeah.
you go back and try to play it again. And
Yeah,
try like
I have one of the Nintendo classics and F-Zero's on it. That shit's hard,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah,
My brother has one, Joshua has
yeah.
one, and I was at his house one day, and he's like, "Do you wanna play Super Nintendo?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, I wanna play Super Nintendo."
Why the
He's
fuck
like
would I not?
he's like, "Pick a game." I was like, "I wanna play F-Zero," 'cause I remember fucking loving F-Zero. Ah, it's hard.
Falcon Punch. Yeah, dude. Hey, so fun fact about EB Games, I was actually the manager of EB Games. I got hired as the manager of EB Games, and I never showed up to my first day. Went through all of the interview process. I went through like the whole spiel, and they were like, "Hey, congratulations! You know, we want to hire you as the manager of EB Games in Great Northern Mall
Mhm, mhm.
here in upstate New York." And I was like, "Dope." And then it came like the day to like show up, and I forgot the reason why. I think I got another job that I was like more. I think I had like way less responsibility and way more pay, and I was like, fuck this. Um, and so I remember like getting the job and then getting this other job and being like, yeah, I'm just not going to show up. And I just legit didn't show up. So, oh, I remember what it was. I got hired at Fox. That's when I started working at Fox because it was
Oh,
I was
yeah,
right out of college, and I
yeah.
was interviewing for places to work because I was like, all right, I'm out of college, I got to do something, and I hadn't heard back from Fox in like a month, and then EB Games hired me, and then like the next day after they hired me, I got the job at Fox.
It's rough. Somewhere out there is a former district manager from EB Games that still holds a grudge about the asshole that they hired that never showed up.
They have like they have like a DNH list, and it's just like my face with like darts in it and like a mustache and an X, a red X or something.
Oh, man.
So I apologize, EB Games, now GameStop. This show is not brought to you by Nintendo or GameStop, but it could be.
It could be.
But actually, more specifically, those two sponsors should really sponsor Shift Alt Q and not us because we are not a video game podcast.
That's true.
That is very true. So that being said, hello and welcome to the Never Heard of a Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Fight.
And how do you think I got this podcast? By being fat and jolly? I'm Caleb.
Actually,
Hi.
this is amazing. Merry Christmas, Caleb.
Merry Christmas, Michael.
Yes. So for those of you that celebrate, it is in fact Christmas.
It's Christmas Day.
It is Christmas Day, and if you don't get that joke, please subscribe to our podcast and listen to past episodes, specifically Christmas Twister, and you'll understand why that's so fucking funny, and it will never stop.
And why it's important to keep Tristams in our hearts. Christams. I can't even. I don't even know what words I'm saying anymore.
It's a thing.
It's 4:13 in the afternoon on a Sunday. I am sober. I just don't know how words work.
So we are here with we're coming at you with a never heard of it classic bonus episode on a holiday episode, and this time we're coming at you on Christmas to review a film that I am going to be perfectly honest with you. I thought this film was going to be straight up garbage.
Yeah,
like I expected one of the worst films we've ever watched. It's in my top 5 best Christmas movies ever.
This movie, I said it to you. I said it out loud to Ellen as soon as it finished. Like, it was way better than it had any right at all whatsoever to be.
No right whatsoever. Like, that request to be so good should have been denied, but it fucking wasn't, and it was approved and sent back to them, and they were like, "All right, boys, here we go." It's pretty
fucking
wild.
do this.
We got ourselves a movie. I gotta pull up the IMDb on this one because we have to talk about the people.
So before we, anyone who has subscribed or paid attention when they clicked play, they'll know what we're talking about. But before we make the reveal, let me tell you how the conversation went down in my house this morning. When Ellen said, "What movie do you have to watch for today?" And I said, "Well, it's like a Christmas action movie where a spoiled rich kid gets a lump of coal for Christmas and gets angry and hires a hitman to kill Santa, and Santa is Mel Gibson." She said, thought about it for a second. Yeah, I'll watch that with you. I mean, if they put enough money into it for Mel Gibson to be interested, then yeah, I'll watch it. Because otherwise, if you had told me anyone else, I would assume that it's going to be another one of those like bullshit, like a bunch of college students made it, and like, no, I'm not fucking watching
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, this has
So,
Polonia Brothers written all over the title.
so, so that's how the conversation went down in my house. The one and only, I imagine, time that the star power of Mel Gibson convinced myself and my wife to watch a movie together.
I just
Oh, and of course, as you know by now, we are talking about the brand new 2020 action hit of the Christmas season. Sorry, the Christmas season,
the Christmas season.
Fat Man.
Starring Mel hating the Jews, Chris Gibson.
Like, first of all, let's get this out of the way. Fuck Mel Gibson.
Right. I mean, it has to be said straight off the bat, fuck Mel Gibson. Like, that's just, we need to understand, we need to get that out there and put that out there. Like, of course, we are not pro Mel Gibson on this podcast.
Now, that said, holy shit.
Jesus Christ. So the crazy thing about this movie is everything, and it's amazing. So this movie was written
The
by the
crazy thing
brothers,
is everything.
is everything. So True Brothers wrote and directed this movie. It's Esham and Ian Nelms, and they I'll be honest, man, they've done some weird films in the past. So they did a film called Night of the Dog in 2005, which legit, I mean, it's a low budget film. Like, there's no way this film had maybe over like a $10,000 budget. I can't even tell. They did another one called Waffle Street in 2015, which had Danny Glover in it, which is maybe that's the connection they got to Mel Gibson. Maybe they were like, hey, you should, I don't know, do this thing. But it also starred James Lafferty, who was in One Tree Hill as Nathan Scott, and who else? It had Julie Gonzalez. I mean, anyways, like it had a little bit of star power. So I would assume that this is the movie that gave them credibility uh to do this film. Like, I don't know how they pulled this off. And then they did another film called Lost on Purpose. This was in 2013, also with James Lafferty, C. Thomas Howell, Jane Kaczmarek, and Aaron Hill. Jane Kaczmarek, of course, Malcolm in the Middle fame. C. Thomas Howell was in The Outsiders. He was in E.T. He's Tyler in E.T. And he's been in a few other things. And then they did Fat Man, and they wrote and directed and produced Fat Man. Man, they did good. This is good. So the estimated opening weekend. So now, do keep in mind this film did come out this year. So these numbers are insanely low. So it did $175,000 in Australia. It did 276,000 domestic, which means here in America, and worldwide gross was like 1.1 million. Now, those numbers in a normal time would be absolute bomb, but that's not bad for a film of this size for coronavirus times, considering they probably had a very, very limited theater release.
Yeah, given that I don't know about you, but I just paid $7 to rent it and watch it with my wife, which, like, even at one of the lower price theaters, local theaters here in this area, would have been minimum $10
I mean,
for two
minimum.
tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Oh yeah. That being said, so this film right now is an on-demand film. So it is not streaming for free anywhere as of yet. So if you would like to watch this movie, you do have to go and rent or buy it. It's $7 to rent from iTunes and Prime, and it is $15 to buy.
yeah, same on Google Play.
Yep. So there you go. So it's it's probably pretty much standard pricing. Do also want to point out right off the bat that this we are going to spoil this movie. So just keep that in mind for those of you that have not watched. I know we didn't have a trailer for this one, so you kind of didn't know it was coming. Aside if you listened to our trailer that dropped yesterday, then you know that this was coming. But I'll only give you a day's notice, and it's Christmas Eve, and you're staying at home and not visiting family. Please, I speak from personal experience. Please.
Yeah.
stay at home. But yeah, so that's this film. So we are going to spoil it, but that's how you can watch it. So let's jump right in to the beginning of this movie. Um, I don't even. I'm trying to like. I'm so enthralled that I forgot like exactly how this movie starts. It starts with the little kid, right?
Yeah.
Or does it start with? I think it starts. Does it start with Santa, or does it start with the kid? With Chris? I'm sorry. Does it start with Chris, or does it start with the kid?
I honestly don't remember either because I got so wrapped up in the action of it that like
Oh, so
I
good. All right.
didn't
So
pay
right up there, we'll
attention.
go over a brief cast list. So as we mentioned, Mel Gibson plays Chris,
Mhm.
the who is Santa. We have Walter Goggins, who plays the assassin.
Round of applause for Walter
He's
Goggins in this movie.
Yeah, so Walton Goggins, you might remember him. He was most recently Boyd in Justified. He was in The Hateful Eight, but I recognized him from The Shield. He was Shane on The Shield, and
Yeah.
I loved that show. And
I
like
have
those type of shows
seen
aren't normally my jam, and Shield was.
him in a lot. I feel like most recently, I actually saw him when we rewatched American Ultra one weekend today, not that
Oh
long
yeah,
ago.
oh yeah, I forgot that's a movie.
It's so
Um,
good though.
yeah, no, it is. I mean, Kristen Stewart is great.
Once again,
Um,
was a surprise hit in my mind.
yeah, that was another one that and that's another one of the films that I cite as an example of like if you're unsure of Kristen Stewart doing anything, go watch that movie.
Mhm.
Because actually that and Adventureland is another really good one to watch if you're like, I want something lighthearted. I want to see Kristen Stewart in something lighthearted because maybe you recently saw her in Happiest Season, which was fantastic. If you have
Yeah.
not watched it, you absolutely should go watch it. Um, but yeah, so that's our main cast, and then of course Mrs. Kringle, which was a really fun surprise, was played by Marianne Jean Baptiste, and
Baptiste.
yeah, Jean Baptiste, and she was in. She's been in a few things. So she's currently she was in Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan. She's played Elizabeth Wright. She was in Homecoming. She was in. She's done some voiceover stuff. She was in How to Get Away with Murder. She was in the Training Day TV series, but she's been in a few things. But I recognized her from Broadchurch.
I would say
She was in it for like a season. Yeah.
David Tennant fans out there, Broadchurch.
Hmm. And Jodie Whittaker.
Mhm. Mhm.
Actually, yeah. But I mean, she's been in tons of stuff. Like you'll see her, and you're like, oh yeah, her. Like
Yeah,
totally.
for sure.
Yeah. And then the young kid in the movie is Chance Hertzfield, and he's been in a few little things. He was in movie A Million Little Things, or the series A Million Little Things. He was in the movie Good Boys as Atticus. And he's been in a bunch of other like little kid things because he's a kid. Um, but yeah, uh, man, good movie. So the film starts off with Billy Weenan. Billy Weenan is the young kid,
Mhm.
and we get the impression that Billy is uh, he's kind of a spoiled rich kid, but it,
Mhm.
it seems like his maybe his mom is dead. I don't know. I didn't really. The
His
mom's
mom
not
is
in the picture.
definitely not in the picture, and for all intents and purposes, neither is his dad. His dad is quote away on business and like can't be there for Christmas, so he's alone in this giant rich people house with his ailing, aging grandmother and a slew of servants who he mistreats like a spoiled little rich kid would.
Yes, in this case, yes. And yeah, so Billy, we see him kind of like ordering the servants around. He is very nice to his grandmother at first. So it is kind of like, wait, what is going on? Like, how does this turn? But then you see like he's nice to his grandma, and then the minute he leaves the room, he's like, blah, and you're like, oh, got it. You're
Hmm.
just putting on a
Hmm.
show because grandma. Um, and yeah, so Billy, we see the scene and grandma's out there, and Billy's wearing like first place ribbons, you best in
Hmm.
show. And she's like, oh, what would look good next to this ribbon, this fourth ribbon, a fifth ribbon. And he was like, yeah. So we see that he goes off to a science fair. and he has a really cool model using hydropower, and it's really neat. And but he ends up getting second place. He ends up getting the
Mm.
runner-up spot to a young girl. And what was her name? Christine, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
to Christine, and Christine wins, and he's like, "What?" So off he goes, and he calls his friend, and his friend just happens to be Walton Goggins, who is, yeah,
I love it. He's credited as Skinny Man.
Skinny Man,
Um,
which is not how they do it
th-
in the movie. Like, he's never referred to as Skinny Man in the movie.
I feel like that might have been like maybe when they were writing it, like in the script, it was like a play of like Fat Man versus Skinny Man sort of thing.
Right.
Um, but they do it well because Santa knows everyone by name.
Yep.
He doesn't later refer to him as Jonathan Miller. But
Yes.
for now, we only know that he is. Well, we'll just say he's the Skinny Man.
Yeah, he's just Skinny Man. So Billy calls up the Skinny Man and says, "I have a job for you." And we see that, and earlier, so we meet him earlier, and we see this guy. He goes into the Skinny Man's office, and you see there's a bunch of like toys in cases and lit up. And
Yeah.
he walks up to him and he hands him a baseball bat. This random guy, nobody important, and he
Hmm.
hands him a baseball bat. And the Skinny Man takes it and he's examining it, and we look at the bottom and it says made at Santa's workshop. So this is
Mm.
like our hint, so we know that he's kind of obsessed with Santa and trying to find that too. um and he was like, so he's like, "Well, how long have you had this?" He's like, "Oh, I got it when I was like 11." And he was like, "Why are you selling it now?" And he's like, "Oh, my kid wants to go to space camp or something." And he was like, "Okay, well, I'll give you $900 for it." And he tries to haggle a little bit, and he gives him 900. And we see that he takes it, he wraps it up, and he puts it like in a little storage place. And there's a ton of toys that all seem to be put up. And we see they focus one specific toy, which is a very old police car.
Hmm.
Um, that is in a case and locked up. So that's our like hint that this is something special.
And like his whole persona is very like Hollywood serial killer esque. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's got the like everything is very clean and neat and tidy and in its place and just so. And he has this warehouse of like all of his prizes that he's collected. We learned that this is something of a habit of his, where like he seeks out and purchases from people authentic, made by Santa, or made in Santa's workshop, authentic toys. So the baseball bat, the car, like we see a bunch of other examples of this. In fact, there's a scene at one point where he's traveling cross country, and he sees a kid playing with an airplane toy, and he takes it and he looks at it and sees the plaque on it, and he gives the kid $150 for it.
Which is great. Kid was like, "So you must have been good this year." "I guess so." Here's $150. The kid's like 5. Um, and, one, so to that point about him being super duper neat, one of the scenes we see when, which is great, is Billy is the contact card in Skinny Man's phone for Billy is little shit, which I think is really funny. He calls him a little shit. So he's actually he's on a job. He's going to
Hmm.
kill these two people. And he's in the house, and as he's walking through, he like adjusts a crucifix because it was
Yep.
askew, and like taps it gently. So like you could see that sort of fastidiousness, and that like making sure everything's neat and clean and stuff like that, as he goes. And he's there, and he shoots the people, and he's like, "All right, I'll take the job."
he's he's like he's creeping as quietly as he can into their bedroom, and he has um a suppressor on his handgun, and he's just about to shoot the people in their sleep, and his phone starts vibrating. He's like
He's like, "What?"
searching around
Yep.
for it and pulls it out. And like shoots the people, then steps out and like, all right, I can talk now.
I'm on a job. So Billy hires him to go and get Christine, and she ends up inside of Billy's basement. He's kidnapped her. And mind you, this is a kid, like maybe 11. So she's tied up, and he's got like the battery cable things, and he's going the spark, spark, spark in front of her, and he's like, "You're gonna fucking say you cheated or something, and I want my ribbon. I've never lost, and I won't plan to lose again. And finally the assassin, Skinny Man takes Christine back home and was like, "You're not going to talk about this, right? Because if you do, I'm going to kill your mommy and I'm going to kill your daddy. Do you have a dog? Yeah. What's your dog's name? Jojo Beans? Well, I'm going to kill
Something like
Jojo Beans too." Okay. Now you're going to tell your parents you were at the mall and you lost track of time. Goodbye. So, so we get the impression that Billy is not a great kid,
no, Billy's
like
terrible.
to a great extent. Like he's not just like a shitty little brat. Like he is a legit bad person. Like
Hmm.
there is that. And of course, we get the idea that it's because he has no actual parental supervision whatsoever.
Or
Grandma's
friends.
or friends. Yeah, grandma's too sick to take care of him. Dad's away on business. Business. For those of
Hmm.
you watching on YouTube,
The
business.
business.
He's given the business. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, so that's our introduction to Billy and the assassin. So now we're gonna go over to Chris. We see Chris, and we see him as he's basically winter Mel Gibson. And we definitely get the impression that he's a sad guy. He's whatever it is, like he is just, "Hey, how you doing?" He sees his wife Ruth, and they're talking about money, and he's talking about like how the government was supposed to pay us a bunch of money and they only paid us half, and I don't know if we can keep the business up and running or whatever. And so we kind of get the idea that Santa is struggling to capitalism,
Yeah. Yeah.
as we all are,
Sooner or
which is
later,
pretty interesting.
capitalism comes for us all.
Comes from even Chris Kringle.
Nobody's safe.
Now, I do want to say that this aspect of the movie is probably one of the coolest parts of the movie, because it ties to a much larger idea
Hmm.
that uh so the idea is that Santa entered in, so Chris Kringle entered in a contract basically with the world's governments, with whoever these people are, specifically the United States, but the world, let's say. And that he says that he gets paid to basically supply toys to the supply chain of Christmas. He talks about Christmas as a $3 trillion a year business, and
Hmm.
that he's like, Christmas makes $3 trillion a year, and we can't even keep our power on, like that sort of thing. So we get the idea that he supplies to the supply chain of Christmas, and still does his Santa deliveries, but as part of that. So like he makes the toys for people to sell, but also delivers toys as well, right? That was kind of the general idea I got.
So, okay, hear me out. So, first of all, the
Okay.
impression that I get from this is that the government is subsidizing Santa's work
Yeah,
to do his free toy delivery that he has done for however many decades, centuries, millennia, whatever the fuck he does. I don't know how long.
sure.
Um, Spoiler: I grew up not believing in Santa, so I don't know all the lore. And
To remember the
the
corporate the
yeah, I
Santa
don't know
part.
all of the ins and outs of Santa's business,
Yeah.
Um, but he's being subsidized by the guy. I know most of this. It's for the joke. Um, he's being subsidized by the government to give out toys to kind of keep the idea of holiday gift giving going, to help spur people into like going out and continuing to purchase. So there's two major themes here. One is the like commercialization and consumerization of Christmas, which has been an ongoing theme for at least as long as you and I have been alive,
Oh, at least. Yeah.
longer, obviously, easily.
Hmm.
And there's also, I mean, honestly, they have been making movies about how there's just no Christmas spirit anymore for decades. And at this point, like, how are we even supposed to like know what Christmas spirit is if there just hasn't been any
Right.
for like well over 40 years at this point?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I would love to go back and like I say I would love to. I wouldn't. It's too much work. But I would love for someone to go back and basically do a thesis project on like tracing the history of Christmas media through like movies, radio, books, and so forth, to find the first instance of people saying there's just no holiday spirit anymore. Because I bet you it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And like
You think
really at this
this is
point,
a pandemic, another
at,
pandemic.
at this point, like stroking the hairy balls of capitalism is the Christmas spirit.
Oh boy. Um, you had to go there.
I had to
Yeah,
go. You know what? I hate it.
it's fine. That's
Like
what we have to do.
entire life we've grown up like this is what we've heard over and over again, and it's true. And no matter how many movies get made about it, there's no effort to fix it. And people get mad at me because I stopped giving and demanded that people stop sending me or giving me gifts years ago. I'm like, I don't want to take part in it anymore, and people would get mad at me. And I'm like,
People would get mad.
that's on you. You work through your own conscience. I,
Right.
I have made up my mind.
So I mean, so yes to that as well. But there's like a whole aspect to this too, talking about talking about the idea of like Santa's influence. So he talks about
Mhm.
the fact that, like, we hear over the radio about kids throwing a bowling ball off on the throughway, or the highway or whatever, and then like just we're hearing these stories about kids just being bad, and
Mhm.
Santa, Chris talks to his wife, Mrs. Kringle, and talks about the idea of like, I've lost my influence and maybe I'm the one that are, causing kids to be bad because like they're just he doesn't ever use the word believe, but I think it's not so much about the believing, but as you said, like the Christmas spirit and that season of being nice and giving and stuff like that. And I think that's what he's saying, like his influence is no longer
Yeah.
that.
Well, the power of fear of punishment or lack of reward that is instilled in children, like the whole like Santa Claus is coming to town, you better watch out, or
Right.
the fucking elf on a shelf bullshit. Um, and this is another thing that I would love to have someone track is have children actually gotten worse, or have they always been shitty, and we just glossed over it and said, "Oh, Santa Claus." Yeah,
Right.
apparently I'm in a mood today.
Caleb's bah humbugging all the way through our Christmas.
Oh my god! Don't even get me started on that phrase. Bah is a sound, a noise of exasperation. It's not a word in this
Yeah.
case.
Bah humbug.
Humbug is the expression that he's using, and that is the hill that I will die on.
So that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break.
I actually love Christmas.
So before we do go for a break, though, we do want to say one, hey, thanks for subscribing if you haven't already. We super
Yes, thank
appreciate
you.
it. If you did subscribe, you got notified this Christmas morning as you were unwrapping your presents. Or if you happen to be of any other practicing religion, we're probably like, Chris, what? Who?
Christums? What is Christums?
Christums? Never heard it. Is that a town in Texas? But
Corpus Christmas?
Corpus Christums, it's everybody knows that's where Waco was. So again, thank you for subscribing. If you haven't and you just happen to stumble across this podcast, hey, go ahead and subscribe. We have brand new episodes out every Sunday and a trailer out every Thursday that kind of lets you know what's happening, so you know what to watch in advance and where to watch it. If you would like to play along, unless you just want to listen to us, then that's cool too. Yeah, either way, you know what, it's a choose your own adventure podcast. Caleb?
Oh my god. There's so much logistic
Oh,
work to that.
Jesus. All right. But anyways, yeah, so if you haven't subscribed, please do that. And of course, follow us on social media. We are at the Nahoit Podcast, the NHOIT, because it's like never heard of it,
Yes.
podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. Go ahead and follow us there. You'll see, trailers and clips and stuff from previous episodes, and definitely a good way to find out when brand new episodes dropped if you haven't subscribed, or if your podcast subscriber of choice is not great with push notifications, or you've turned them off because you're like, dude, I don't need my phone telling me what to do. It's a really great way to learn all that information. But Caleb, where else could they go if they wanted more information?
Well, of course, you can always visit thenahoit.com. That's THENHOIT.com.
You don't say.
I do say, where every month we post our upcoming schedule of episodes. So if you visited that site this month, then this episode might not have come as a surprise to you because we leaked it on there first. So
Hey.
only those savvy enough to visit the site would have known prior to yesterday that we were doing this. And of course, we include links to trailers as well as where you can find these movies streaming if they are available as such. And our beloved contact form where you can reach out and tell us about the movies that you think we should watch. We're building up a collection so that we can go through and do more months of just back to back to back listener requests. So get yours in.
Somebody actually did tweet this at us. I forgot who it was, but it was when
Yeah.
it came out, when the trailer came out, somebody tweeted it at us. So thank
Well,
you for
thank you.
that. Yeah,
Yes.
had to be done. But of course, we are part of a larger network. This is a Night Shift Radio original. So you want to head to nightshiftradio.com as well, because we have 3 brand new podcasts out. That is right.
Fucking
3.
A.
That is insane. So first
Merry
off, Shift
Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas to everybody. So we launched Shift Alt Q. We talked about it a little earlier. Really great video game podcast. We launched Latchkey Kids, or that actually launches this coming Monday, but you can see a preview of it earlier. Latchkey Kids is hosted by Sarah Sweeney.
Who
And
you may remember from our episode where we did Little Monsters. It was Little Monsters, that was called?
I believe it was Little Monsters that we did.
The
Yeah.
yeah,
The Australian one.
the zombie film. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was the one we did. Yeah.
Wait, no, she
No, no,
wasn't there for
no.
Little Monsters. She
Because
was
she
there
didn't want
for
zombies.
um the end of the world one, the really awkward brunch.
Where they all go to the dinner. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot
I don't remember
what that movie
what
was
it's
called, but it was really good. That
It
was
was
a good
very
one.
good.
Yeah.
Julia Stiles and um
Uh, that dude
David
from
Cross.
David Cross, yeah. And also Sarah Sweeney has done some voiceover work for the Storyteller series as well. So you've heard her voice many times.
Sure.
But brand new show called Latchkey Kids. Really great. She interviews someone and they chat about being a latchkey kid and talk a little bit about themselves. And then she has every guest do a dramatic reading of a TV show theme song, one of the ones
Love
of
it.
their favorites. Fantastic.
Love it.
And then our last brand new show, which actually just came out this past Monday, every Monday, Wednesday, and
What?
Friday. I know we have Fight Jokes About Everything with me, Michael Fight. So it's a brand new comedy podcast, 3 times a week. I'm literally just going to talk about things that are on the internet and make a bunch of jokes about it. But you should definitely check it out. You can go to nightshiftradio.com/shows to learn more about that, or of course follow Night Shift Radio on Twitter at MediaNSR. So definitely check that out. But until then, we're going to go to a commercial break. We will be right back.
You're listening to a Night Shift Radio production. Night Shift Radio is a modern media company bringing you shows that entertain, inform, and most importantly, provide an escape. Never Heard of It dives into the world of bad, obscure, and sometimes just weird movies. Follow along with the crew of Set Condition 1 as they experience the 2004 sci-fi hit Battlestar Galactica, one episode at a time. Each week on Left of the Dial, we explore a new record or revisit an old favorite. We bring in guests to talk about their own music and the state of the industry. The Superpod Hero Cast, guys with beers talking about movies with capes. They draw a random comic-inspired movie from Thor's helmet and offer thorough, insightful, and humorous commentary. And once a month, tune into the Storyteller series and get lost in the magic of a good old-fashioned radio drama. Learn more about these fine shows at nightshiftradio.com and subscribe on your favorite platform.
Hello and welcome back. Hi, Caleb.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Hey.
Hey.
Did you notice my new couch here?
I did. I actually saw it. I saw your post about like testing out the futon. I really like it. It's really nice.
It's very, very simple, very clean, basic, but it fits the room very well. The colors worked perfectly with this. For those of you on YouTube, the felt panels that make up this nice little kind of mountain pattern.
Yeah.
And Ellen managed to guess like perfectly the height at which to hang those felt tiles.
It's perfect.
It like could not be any more perfect.
Yeah.
So well done.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah, so when we left you, we learned about Billy, that he's a bad kid and he has access to an assassin. We learned about Chris and the idea of Christmas and that he has a deal with the government. So while all this happening, basically, the government should, the United States shows up, the United States military and was like, hey, Chris, and he was like, where the hell's the rest of my money? And they're like, well, look, as per your contract, we pay you based on volume. You only delivered half the volume of what you promised, so you get paid for that. And he was like, well, he's like, it's not my fault kids are bad. And they're like, well, it's not our fault that we only give you half the money for half the product. So
We
basically,
learned that Santa does in fact give out lumps of coal,
he does. Yeah.
which I think is funny because I feel like when that particular part of the mythology was first introduced, that would have been as valuable as him handing out nuggets of gold.
I,
And obviously, like a child wouldn't necessarily appreciate that when they got it in instead of a toy. But like, imagine a parent's delight in like Victorian England, they get like a big old chunk of coal for free.
yeah. Be like, shit, this is awesome. Like you might as well just given him a sandwich. Like this is spectacular. This is brilliant.
Silly
Yeah.
daddy, you can't eat carpet.
So oh boy. So the military proposes basically this plan to help Chris basically pay the bills. So they're basically like, look, how about you help us with this other project and you'll be able to fund your actual operation because this will be another way to do it. So the idea is that they're going to make control panels for fighter jets basically.
Mhm,
So they're
mhm.
they're going to mass produce these panels, and it's going to be a 2-month job. So he brings back his actual elves. He actually has elves.
This is
um
actually pretty awesome.
yeah, it is pretty awesome. So he brings back these actual elves, and they are going to produce these panels for the fighter jets, and that's how he is going to make his money. And so there's a really great scene. Caleb, you mentioned earlier about Chris, kind of knowing who everyone is. So there's a bar that he visits. So every day he goes to the post office, picks up his postcards, especially right before Christmas, for all the kids like writing about what they want for Christmas,
Mhm.
and then he goes to this bar, and he sees the bartender's there, and there's another guy sitting next to him, and he's the bartender and him are flirting, and she's basically like, hey, come back to my place later. And so she like goes to the back to get something, and Chris slides over a chair, like settles up on him, and the guy's like, hello. And he was like, hey, Mike, how you doing? He was like, I'm sorry, do I know you? He's like, well, I know you. And he's like, how are Carol and the kids? And he's like, "Gah." So we get the impression that Mike is married, you know, and he even says to him, like, look, she's a really great gal, but ever since she was a kid, she's always made bad choices or whatever. And he was like, I tell you what, if you were to get in your tractor trailer, assumingly, right now and drive for 12 hours straight, you could make it home in time for Christmas. And the guy was like, uh, okay. So like it was just a really great example of like, seeing Chris Kringle and that influence, and later in the movie that kind of plays out where he starts talking about being more proactive
Mhm.
instead of reactive, which was just that whole scene. Oh, I can't wait till we talk about that last scene. It was
Can we talk
uh,
for just a moment about the drink that he orders at the bar? When he sits down and
he
orders
orders
a
the
Johnny
Johnny
Carson,
Carson.
which is a shot of Jack Daniels or like some similar
Yeah, it
whiskey.
looked like Jack Daniels.
It
Yeah,
looked like Jack
or
Daniels.
Johnny Walker or something.
Very well. Jack Daniels is a very distinctive label.
Yeah.
And it looked like that. In and a tablet of Alka-Seltzer, which he drops into the shot and takes the shots.
That is amazing.
For when you want to get drunk, but you also have indigestion. That's I mean that's my life.
That's Caleb. I want to get drunk, but I also have indigestion. That's spectacular. We've been doing this podcast too
It
long.
makes It really makes me wonder, one, is that an actual drink? Like, could I go
Right.
somewhere and order a Johnny Carson and, like, they might tell me to fuck off, but they'd know what I was talking about? And
Right.
2, did Johnny Carson actually drink that?
I feel like that has to be like that's research that needs to be done.
Doing it.
We're doing it. I'll continue on. So
Oh my
so
god. I typed in Johnny Carson, and the first hit after his actual name is Johnny Carson drink.
yes. And is it that?
Um, I get Johnny
God, I
Carson
hope so.
drunk. Let me find no, search only for Johnny Carson drink. An alcoholic, plain and simple.
I mean, it's got to be. I feel like that's a thing Johnny Carson would do immediately before going on a show.
Oh,
No?
there's a
You got it. You don't got it. We're in the middle
there's
of a show
well,
here, Caleb.
no, go on, go
We
on.
can't be Google searching in the middle.
Says
Just
who?
kidding.
We
We
do it all the
only
time.
we Google search all the time in every episode. But I think that scene is really amazing because we start to see there's very little instances that we see where it like very subtly kind of shows like Santa's power, let's say. So there's that scene where it's you found it. Go ahead.
It's on Urban Dictionary, actually. Johnny Carson, whiskey with an Alka-Seltzer in it. So there has to be some backstory to that. So
There's
it's
got to be
confirmed it's
some
a
sort
real
of background.
thing.
It
It is
is
a real thing.
confirmed.
I'm gonna keep looking to see if if I can find like the reasoning behind it. So go on. But confirmed it's a real thing.
Noted. Yeah. So the Johnny. Oh man, I'm gonna have one. So so I think this is a really great instance of the first instance of Santa's power. So we learned that he knows every child, and that so he knows every kid, and he has that ability to like know whether they're good or bad. Very cool. But next, we have later on after Christmas happens, Santa was out delivering presents, and a couple of kids shot at him, and we see that he gets shot in the side. When he gets in bed and he's like, oh well, and eventually his wife's like, well, let me see what this. He's like, it'll heal like they always do. So now we get the idea that he heals faster than normal. So we've got that. And then a little later, we see two army men trying to like tip up a crate, and they're really, really struggling. And Santa just comes up and just like, what? And just hauls it up. And they're like, what? And he's like, steroids, and walks away. Great
Love
scene.
it.
So we know that
So great.
Santa is strong. So he's super strong. We know that, that he heals really well. We know that he is somewhat immortal because he talks about 1910. He was alive during 1910 doing this, so he's been around for a while, and he knows everybody. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Santa.
Sorry, I'm still looking for this.
Oh,
Apparently, he
Jesus.
was known for being a whiskey drinker.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm done.
Okay, we're gonna move on because we got to finish this movie. So, okay, so we've got all our elements. We see what the deal is going on. So Christmas happens, and Billy gets a lump of coal for Christmas, obviously, because he literally threatened the life of another person. Like,
he's a fucking terrible kid.
he's a terrible kid. Yeah. So he gets a lump of coal, and so of course he gets all upset, and he runs outside and is like, I'll get you, Fatman. And he's all upset. So he calls the assassin and was like, hey, I need you to kill Kris Kringle, Santa Claus. And the assassin, of course, is all in on this because he has a personal grudge going against Santa. So he's like, all right, definitely. So he does all the research, and he figures it out that the post office knows. Like, the post office obviously knows because they're delivering packages to Santa, and he eventually traces it back and gets to North Peak, Canada.
Alaska.
Or Alaska. Yeah, North Peak in Alaska. Yeah. So that's where he's gone off to. So he's in Alaska. and he's going to hunt down Santa Claus. Yeah, because he's not in
Which,
Canada because it's the American government that come to him.
yeah, but I mean, he does have to go through Canada to get there, and there's a great scene where he's at the um, customs point of entry, and like, "What's your business in the country?" He's like, "Hunting. I'm going to kill some things." And like that doesn't raise any red flags at all. She just asks him
Right.
for like his paperwork, and he
He had all
provides
the
it.
proper forms.
Hmm.
What are you
Hmm.
gonna do? Yeah. Um, yeah. So off he goes, and he eventually figures out who Santa is. Like he figures out it's Chris, and he's ready to gun after him. Now, keep in mind a bunch of other stuff has happened. There's a lot of story about Chris Kringle and the Bills, and like his spirit.
Hmm.
Him and his wife Ruth. There's the whole military aspect. So they talk about like how great, like how efficient they are. We see a scene with the elves and they're just eating sugar, and they're like, well, we're elves, and we, every 8 hours we take a 20-minute nap, and this is the most efficient way to work. And it was a funny scene. It's funny, but it's weird because like it's treated as very like serious because this is a serious film.
Yeah, it's like the like any scene of Buddy the Elf eating, but like treated as like this is actually the most efficient diet for us,
Right.
and not like this is definitely going to cause like some serious health complications at a very young age.
Right. Yeah, he's very it's great. It just fits perfect with the theme and everything. Like I freaking love it. So so a lot of all of that stuff has happened. So let's keep that in mind. So now we're off to the big scene. So Skinny Man finally tracks down Santa. And so he gets through and he sees that the military are there, and he starts ripping through the military and getting into the factory. He runs into one of the elves, and of course the elf, like he has a bomb, and he's like rolling him around, and the elf picks it up and he's like, hey there, little fellow, why don't you take that apart? And he's like, huh, and he goes doop 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 and really quickly like takes it apart and then runs. It was really great scene, and of course he goes off shooting some people, and he blows up part of the sled, like the place with the sled. um so Santa gets called in, Chris comes in and he's like, hey, we're under attack. And so he gets his guns ready. Now, do keep in mind, one of the early scenes we see is Santa out back, like target practicing,
Yeah,
and he gets almost all of them except for one. We see that he has a punching bag. So, like, Santa's no stranger to action, let's
Santa
say.
trains.
Santa
Santa
trains.
trains in the off season.
Oh, yeah, as you do. And he says he makes a very great line. So by the time the skinny man finally gets up to him, they're face to face. They're really far apart, and he walks right out and he's like, "Jonathan Miller,
Yes.
you twisted little child." And he's like,
Which
"I'm coming for you, fat man."
so good. And we finally get some hints at what Skinny Man's motivations is for hating Santa and for like collecting all the memorabilia and whatnot. We never find out like his true backstory, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't know if I think it makes the movie better or kind of lacking. But we learn that the police car that you mentioned is like cherished to him because it's the only toy that Santa ever gave him. And we get a reference from Santa where he says, "I couldn't replace your parents." So thinking maybe his parents died when he was young and he ended up in the foster system, because when he buys the airplane from the little kid, he like at one point like says, "I never got anything from Santa. All I got for Christmas was this," and he shows him like cigarette burns on his arms. "You never forget the smell of burning flesh and menthol." Like, Jesus, dude.
Yeah, no fucking kidding. Yeah, so that was you kind of get the impression that either his parents were absolutely crazy and abusive to him and he wanted new parents,
Yeah.
or they died and he was with a foster system or adoptive parents that were very bad to him or whatever. So one way or another, he had a very terrible childhood. That's what we are to assume.
And it messed him up to the point where he becomes a contract killer who also collects and purchases authentic Santa memorabilia in his free time.
Yeah. Yeah, which I mean, everyone needs a hobby.
I mean, that is a hell of a character description.
Right. That's a backstory right there. So, so he's there and he was like, "I've come for your head." And he was like, "You think you're the first one?" And it was just a great fucking line. I love it. And
You
they,
think you're the first? You
mm,
think I got this job because I'm fat and jolly?
Jolly. Oh, the great, great line. What a
And
spectacular.
you get all these like little subtle references to like how long he's been doing the Santa thing
Yeah.
and like why he's Santa, like all of these things. And like there's a lot of like little like some of it's complimentary, some of it's conflicting. Like he's very like, kind of tough, rugged guy, but also like he's supposed to be jolly and like so, they
Yeah.
embodies the spirit of the holidays. And we know that like elves live a very long time, but they eventually die. We don't know if this is like the Santa or if it's like a succession of Santas and like he's taken over like 70 years ago or something like that. Like
Well,
we don't know for
at
sure.
least 110 years ago, because he
Yeah,
said 1910
that's
was the
true.
last perfect Christmas they had, and he was like, "Oh, well." Yeah. So, it's great, it's great. And, so at this point, they have their gunfight, and we see, Santa's very, like, planful with that, and, th Jonathan Miller, the assassin, kills Santa. He
Takes him right
shoots
out.
him a couple of times, he stabs him, so they end up into, like, a brawl, and, we saw that at one point, the assassin had, like, a little, like, hidden shooty out knife thing, and he stabs him, like, 4 times in the side, straight through the
Mhm,
heart, and then eventually, he's sitting there, and he just shoots him straight in the eye, and,
mhm.
that's it, Santa's dead, and as he does that, of course, Mrs. Claus comes out and just bam! And shoots the
She's so
guy.
bad.
He starts shooting at her. It was just so great. So like he runs in the house to go after Mrs. Claus, and he's there and he's looking around for her, and she walks up behind him and goes, "I'm sorry," and just blah, and shoots him in the head. And
Like a
oh,
full on like 1700s like dueling pistol.
oh, it was amazing, absolutely amazing. So she goes running out to Kris Kringle, and of course he's laying dead seemingly, and she's like, "Come on, Chris, come on." And we see his hand and he grips the snow. At first I thought he was going to grab the snow and put it into his eye or
Yeah,
something.
right?
That
Like
was
the snow is what heals him. It's what keeps
right,
him
right,
young.
right, or something. um and oh yeah, what was the line somebody asked? Oh, when the military guy was talking to the elves, and they're like, "Oh, this is why," and he was like, "Oh, is that the same for Chris, why you live so long?" And he's like, "No, it's the giving that keeps him young."
Which just makes me laugh every time because
Right.
they say that in the trailer too.
Yep.
Just
So seemingly Santa wakes up, and so we're back at Billy's house, and we see that the grandmother has found out that Billy's been taking her money, forging. Well, maybe not him, but she found out that somebody is taking money and spending it, and we learned that we know that it's Billy spending it on this assassin, and so we're starting to learn that, and so he's like, "Oh shit, I got to do this." So he takes a whole bunch of fentanyl and crushes it into her milk that she takes every night, and
the
he's going to
milk
kill
in
her.
this
But while that happens, there's a knock upon the door, and
movie.
one of the workers answers the door, and we just see her face, and she's like, "Hello." Oh. And then so, Billy's like, "I'm in my room, leave me alone, don't bother me." And she comes up knocking on the door, and he was like, "I said don't bother me. Don't you speak English? What the hell?" And she opens the door, and in walks Ruth, and then in walks Kris Kringle.
Motherfucking Chris.
Motherfucking Kris Kringle with a patch over his eye, and he's got a cane, and he's wearing his big red coat, and he sits down in front of Billy, and it's just, oh man, that scene is just amazing. And the whole thing ends with him being like, "This is your last chance, Billy, because if you don't, I'm gonna come to your house and tear you from your bed sheet." It's just, oh god. Uh, Batman.
He points to like his eye that's been shot out. He's like, "The fat man's got his eye on you, Billy." Like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, it's so good. Uh, yeah. So should you watch this movie? Yes.
Yeah.
Abso-fucking-lutely yes. You should absolutely be watching this movie right now. Now,
Yeah.
that being said, of course, this movie is rated R. There is some violence, and there is some swearing. We do see blood and,
Mhm.
stuff as they do, as Santa and the skinny man fight it out. And there is a little bit of swearing. There is implied sex, but we never actually see it, but it is very
Mm.
much implied. But yes, you should absolutely watch this movie. Like, there's no reason why you should not watch this movie. I
Yeah.
cannot think of a reason. I mean, it's just a really good movie. I think there's a lot of really good takeaways from the film. And yes, I mean, I think the only reason to not is if you don't want to support Mel Gibson. I
Which
don't
is
blame
fair.
you. That's fair. That's completely fair and within your moral obligations. Um, but it's a really good movie. So yes, you
You
should
know,
definitely go and watch that movie.
my biggest takeaway from this movie was
Hmm.
how much I really fucking want just those like stock issue, like everybody has them at Christmas, plain sugar cookies frosted, like shaped like candy canes and trees and shit like that.
You should make
He
some.
ate
They're
so
super
many of
eady to
those.
make.
He ate so many of those in the movie, and I
He ate
just
so
wanted
many
one.
of those.
Just wanted
Yeah.
one.
I have so many fucking cookies. We made a whole bunch of like rugelach and stuff like that, but then we also have had our neighbors gave us Christmas cookies, like they dropped off Christmas cookies. My mom
That's very
dropped off
sweet.
Christmas cookies for us at our doorstep because we are literally locked inside of our house. So it was crazy. It was great. But we
Yeah,
have tons of cookies and I'm very excited for it.
yeah.
Um,
Ellen's mother sent us chocolate chip cookies, which were delicious. They got delayed by about a week, but they made it, and they were still very good. One of her aunts sent us an assortment of cookies that might have included the kinds that I've been craving, but they never made it. Because the current administration has spent the last couple of years systematically dismantling the postal system. And
it's
so,
true.
uh,
Yeah.
if your packages arrive late or not at all, uh, don't you dare blame your local post office. It's not their fault.
No, you blame Louis DeJoy immediately and Donald Trump.
Mhm.
Hey everyone! Again, if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you celebrate any other holiday or don't celebrate at all, which is also perfectly fine, coming from
And
two
Merry
atheists,
Christmas.
yeah. Then Merry Christmas to you. Happy non-denominational winter solstice. So thank you everyone for joining us for this very special episode, our Christmas episode of the Never Heard of It podcast. Again, we really appreciate you guys coming out and come back this Sunday. Where we've got White Coats. We're talking about a film called White Coats. Um,
Regular scheduled episode.
your regular scheduled episode. It's going to be pretty interesting. We're pretty excited about that one too. Um,
Pumping them
but
out.
but yeah, so we're pumping them out every Sunday since we've started. So definitely check them out. And hey guys, thanks a lot,
Hey,
and we will see you Sunday.
hey,
Hey,
I had fun today.
me too. I had fun today too.
I'm gonna go make a Johnny Carson.
Same. Good night.